guys.
And welcome to the booth here at Pro Tour Phyrexia. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to bring you coverage of Booster Draft here in the morning. I can tell you the vibes were very real out on the floor. Everything that they just talked about at the news desk came true, right? It is absolutely back, and people are super excited to sit down and do the draft. We're going to be playing Pioneer a little bit later in the day, but for now, let's focus in on this initial draft table here. As Maria mentioned at the desk, it is stacked. You see Luis Scott-Vargas in the lower right. We're going to be following him along, but as you go around the table, you're going to see names that you recognize. Autumn Burchett, there's Willie Adel at the top, Eli Loveman as well are kind of the headliners for this table. But I mean, that's half the table right there.
Yeah, I mean, this table is absolutely loaded. Multiple Pro Tour champions here, so it's going to be tough here. But, you know, speaking to Luis, felt very confident about the draft format, has played it a ton.
I would like you to remove the outer wrapper from all 3 booster packs.
By the way, this is a timed draft, as we say. You can hear the judges talking there. And the players, you know, if you're used to drafting online or at your local store, this is a little bit more regimented. Of course, tournament integrity is absolutely critical. And the players will be timed. They will be going through, counting out to make sure that the exact number of cards are in the pack. And this is kind of a ritual that happens at the Pro Tour and has for many years.
Marshall, I'm just feeling things right now. This is just bringing back all the nostalgia. Look at those cards. Look at those wrappers out on the table. Just so reminds me, you know, just the time when I used to play in the Pro Tour, and this is just great. It's great to be back here watching people play paper Magic cards.
It is the little things. You know, Sigrid said, I'm looking forward to drafting cards with Pro Tour stamps. That's right. Each of the cards has a stamp on it to make sure that it is known that it was opened here. It belongs in this pack. And, you know, even those little details like that. And it looks like one of our players maybe has a card that is needs to be replaced there, so the judge is going to take a look at it. But once the players are ready, what will happen is, just like on any booster draft, they'll get a chance to look at the pack. They'll have a certain amount of time to make their decision. They'll take one card from it, and then for this whole pack, they'll pass the cards to the left. We'll then do that again for pack 2, but the cards will go to the right, and then pack 3, they'll go back to the left again. And the judge will tell them at each interval when they can look at the cards, when they can draft, and then in between packs, they'll have a review period where they can look at their decks. Now, one of the things that you might get used to if you play online or at a more casual setting in paper is that you can look at your deck as you go. You cannot do that here. Let's take a look at what Luis opens up here in this opening pack. He's got a Prophetic Prism at the front.
See a Viral Spawning here as a potential pick. Very solid option. It looks like the best card. I'm not seeing a whole lot of other commons here.
Yeah, I saw Pestilent Siphoner, which is a pet card of mine, and a playable, but I don't think it's on the level of Viral Spawning.
Yeah,
that looks to be the best card here, Paul.
Right. The thing with this format is it's really, really important. It's a very fast format. You're going to see a bunch of players drafting a ton of 2-drops, getting to the board early, and you know what that means? Sizing 3/3 is very relevant in this format. So just you're going to see a ton of people playing a bunch of 2-mana 2/2s, and just I've found that just playing 3/3s just puts you really far ahead on the board.
It is. That is the way to stabilize the early attack and even turn it back in your direction. All right, pick number 2 here. Luis is looking through. There's another Siphoner, a good green card in there. Ooh, a good green card and a good black card. He's got Venomous Brutalizer and Drowning Ichor pulled to the front.
Yeah, so I think the Drowning Ichor is the more powerful option here. But of course, after having first picked the green card, it is pretty tempting to take another solid green card in your color. Keep yourself open. Right, you start with 2 good green cards because you don't know. You might want to go green-white toxic.
That's right, and that's what Luis will be thinking here, because both of the cards he's taken create toxic creatures.
Right,
and so he is thinking. I mean, I know Luis. We did the podcast yesterday. I know how he feels about the format, and he's going to be leaning now, not forcing, but leaning towards green-white at this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially after that, those first 2 picks, definitely looking to go toxic. And I think the card that he wants to take is the first card that he saw there, Tyvar Stand.
Yep.
Excellent combat trick, one of the best in the format here, and just continues to solidify himself in green. I just can't imagine he's going to take anything else here.
Doesn't look like there's much of a choice. Copper Longlegs is not where you want to be in the format. And yeah, he's just going to go ahead and take Tyvar Stand. So 3 solid green cards to start. Look, he didn't pick up some Mega Bomb, but those are good cards.
I mean, starting the draft with three uncommons.
Three uncommons in the
not
same
bad.
color. That is
Not
kind of where you want
bad.
to
Past
be.
12
Yeah,
cards.
and you know, one thing that Luis loves to do, and most drafters do, is see
Pick
if
up
they
the
can
pack, you have
solidify
30
themselves
seconds.
in one solid color in the first pack and then kind of let the second pack dictate the other. We'll see if he can pull that off here. There's an Oil Gorger Troll he's got pulled to the front. That card's pretty decent. It tends to play more like a red-green card than just a green card, but it is the only green card of note here in the pack.
Right, especially with what Luis has so far. He's kind of leaning towards potentially being toxic, but at the same time, there's
5
nothing
seconds.
else here that would kind of have him lean towards that. So it looks like he's just going to continue taking
Draft.
green
Past
and
11 cards.
looking for an obvious sign for
Right.
what the second color should be. Right?
Yeah.
If you see, you know, a late removal spell in another color, that's
up
when
the
you
pack,
go,
you have
okay, maybe I
25
should be green
seconds.
black, green white, or green red.
So we'll see if he can do that. He's picking up his 4th pick here. And what did he find? Anything good? No.
Does not look. Oh nope, there's a Basilica Shepherd there. That is a very that is a very decent option if you do want to go green white
5
toxic,
seconds.
right? So
I think he
that's
does.
that's probably the card that you want to take, especially given his start so far.
Draft. Past 10 cards.
And typically, the green-white
the
color
back, you have
combination is
25
usually
seconds.
not the color combination that you want to be going when you're drafting, just because it typically tends to lack interaction. But this format, it's all about speed. In green and white, you get a lot of premium 2-drops, and typically the creatures are going to be really high quality.
A second copy of Tyvar's Stand here for Luis. So the green uncommons continue to flow for him. He's
5
taking
seconds.
that Basilica Shepherd last pick, which puts him just a little toe in the pool of white, but he hasn't quite sorted
Draft.
out yet what
Past
his
9
second color is
cards.
going to be. If he can get just another couple of green playables here, that will put him
Pick
in
up
that
the pack.
position
You
that
have
we were
20
talking about, where he can kind of let the second pack dictate that for him. Ooh, is that another Shepherd there?
That is another Shepherd here.
Okay,
so-
well, maybe he's just green-white then.
Right,
There's a Plague Nurse.
but he's putting that Plague Nurse.
So Plague Nurse is a much worse card, but the interesting
5
thing
seconds.
here is, does he want to really commit to that bit that I mentioned where he's like, no,
Draft.
I'm definitely
Past 8
green and I'll be
cards.
something else. And he does. He's going
Wow,
to take the Plague
that
Nurse.
is
So
interesting.
that to me is a,
Pick
I
up the
want to
pack.
stay
You have
open
20
into the
seconds.
second pack. I want to be green for sure, and then something else.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, you've already taken a Shepherd, right? So you would think maybe it's good to just take the second one and then just kind of move along. But perhaps it's one of those things where white is an extremely deep color in
5
this
seconds.
set. Just because you see a Shepherd 7th pick doesn't necessarily mean it's open, right?
That's true.
Draft.
There's
Past
7.
7
You can
cards.
go 7 commons deep that you would be happy taking in the
Pick up
draft.
the
So
pack. You have
perhaps
15
Luis
seconds.
is just looking at the boosters, thinking, well, I don't see any other white cards here. Maybe I shouldn't be taking this Shepherd.
Okay, and once again, as we get near the end of the
5
pack
seconds.
here, there's another Plague Nurse. There's also the Hunter Maze,
Draft. Past 6 cards.
and he's going to take it.
Mono green.
You know, there's also
Pick up
the
the pack, you
element
have
of
10
cutting
seconds.
off your neighbors, right? He is sending no green cards to the left. He is just like, I am not going to allow my neighbors to think that green's open in any way, shape, or form.
Draft.
He takes a free from flesh
Please
here.
pass 5 cards.
You know, a fine red
up the
combat
pack,
trick,
you
and
have
it
10
does actually
seconds.
go in the oil deck, which, you know, he's got the Gorger, the Oil Gorger Troll.
Yeah, not seeing a whole lot of red cards here in the packs, though, right? Red is also relatively deep, and given that you're not seeing
Draft.
anything
Pass
that you're,
4 cards.
not even a Furnace Strider, nothing
the
that you're
pack, you have
interested
5
in seeing,
seconds.
means that Luis probably shouldn't be looking to go into red-green, although
Draft.
red-green
Pass
oil,
3 cards.
one of the strongest archetypes in the
Pick up the
format.
pack.
And it's
you have
his
5
favorite. He
seconds.
thinks it's the best. He took a Mirkin Smith there just to kind of round out the pack, and it looks like a couple of
Draft.
blue
Pass 2
cards
cards.
floating around.
Pick up the pack,
Blue
you have
cards
5
will not be in
seconds.
high demand. He is going to take a spell over a land, but that's the only way
Draft.
he's going to get
Pick
blue
up the
cards into
final
his
card,
pile at this
add
point.
to your pile.
Yeah,
At this
there's a
point, there will be
couple of
60
color
second review
combinations with
time
blue
period. Please
that-
pick up your cards.
Pros are maybe okay playing. I think specifically blue-white.
Yeah.
It has a lot of synergies. The blue-white artifact strategy is okay, and then the blue-black proliferate deck. But blue and green, in my opinion, it's the worst color combination of the format.
Yeah, Luis hates it too. He will not play that under any circumstance. So he's done it.
Yeah.
He has a solid grip of green cards, though not the most consistent game plan laid out yet. He's got just sort of some raw power, but you know, that's kind of what green's about here.
Yeah, but one thing I want to note, though, lack of 2-drops in Luis's deck. He has
Oh,
0
his
at the
curve is
moment. So his
not-
curve is horrendous, especially for this format. You cannot fall behind. One of the best commons in the format is Crawling Chorus. If your opponent plays that turn 1 and your hand is just the cards that Luis fanned out, you're just dead.
You're dead. Yeah, you know, one shortcut for when we get to the matches,
10
and of course
seconds.
it affects the draft as well, is, you know, out of the first 3 turns, you want to be doing something on at least 2 of those turns.
Yeah,
Like if
absolutely.
you miss on one of those, you're way behind because your opponent
That
could
is
very
time in
well
the
do
review
something on
period.
all 3, turns
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely. If you're on the
Please
draw
unwrap
and your
the
opening
pack
hand is
labeled
just
B,
a 3
then
drop,
count 15
you likely
cards
have to
face
ship that
down
card
and make
back.
sure
Yep.
no
Ship that
cards are
hand back.
marked.
Okay, pack number 2 incoming here for Luis. As I mentioned at the desk, it is Luis's birthday. This is, you know, one of the greatest gifts he can get is getting to do a Pro Tour draft on his birthday. But, you know, he wouldn't mind upping the ante a little, get a little Planeswalker action in there, a little Nissa,
Nissa would
something
be a
like
nice
that.
one. Eternal
You have
Wanderer.
40 seconds.
Those would be gifts.
That's not asking too much on your
Right.
birthday, right? Oh, he's in his second pack. Let's see what he's
Hey,
got.
Planar
There's a Planar
Disruption.
Disruption and another. Oh, let's see if he's got any green cards, though.
I don't even know if there's a. Oh, there's a Paladin of Predation.
Yeah, that's the 7-drop. Really not the direction he wants to go. If he's going to dip into white, you know, it looks like the best card in the pack is Planar Disruption, so he could just take that.
Yeah, the other option is if you wanted to go maybe lean towards green-black Toxic, then you saw the Siphoner there. That's what you
5
want to be
seconds.
taking. But the Planar Disruption is such a stronger card, one of the best removal spells in the format.
Yeah, it also
Draft.
fills out a
Pass
2-drop like he
14
needs things to
cards
do
to your
early in the
right.
game
Right.
that are relevant. So he's going to pick that up and once again take maybe one extra
the pack.
small step
You
towards
have
being
40
green
seconds.
white toxic. And let's see what he finds here. Ooh, there's a Hex Gold Slash. He loves that card. That card is also, by the way, amazing against him.
I do not like passing that card.
Yeah, but I don't think he can get away with taking it. There's a Contagious Vorak in the pack here, and that's just too good for him.
Right. Contagious Vorak, just the best green common.
But look at Luis. He's like, I want this Hex Gold Slash.
You saw
so
no
bad.
red cards, and you're basically all green. I think you just have to take the Vorak here. It's such a good card.
It's just, you
3
know,
mana, 3/3 draw card.
Totally,
I mean,
totally. And, you know, you talked about 3/3s and how strong they can be at blunting the
5
assault
seconds.
and then even turning it back in your favor. He just has to take the Vorak here. But it is really tough because
Draft.
Hex
Pass
Gold
13
Slash,
cards.
it kills the Nurse and it kills the Brutalizer. Like, how do you feel about spending 4 mana and your opponent
Pick up
goes
the
1
pack,
mana,
you have
kill it? Like,
35
that's
seconds.
very
It is
difficult
a
to come
premium
back from.
premium
Is that
removal
Gingataxia's
Gingataxias.
War Augur? The old one, right?
The
That's the
old
OG,
one.
the 7-drop? Wow.
So for those who may not have drafted this format a lot, you can open the Praetors in other sets in this format. One of the best rares in this set, unsurprisingly, Shieldred. You can open Shieldred and draft
The one from last set.
the one from the last set.
He's going to
correct.
pick up a Rustbine Cultivator here. That cannot be high on his list of cards
5
that he'd
seconds.
like to take, but it is a 1-drop, and he needs those. So
Draft.
it
Pass
will at
12
least fill that
cards.
gap for him.
Yeah, it took it over the Predation Steward. So
I like that
Pick up
pick
the
from
pack.
Luis.
You have
He does
30
have the
seconds.
Oil Gorger Troll as well. He wants to get that on.
all right,
And
so you have two.
Is this the third Tyvar stand? It looks like there's another Cultivator as well.
Yeah, as good as that card is, there's a limit to how many combat tricks you really want to put into your deck.
You can see that Luis keeps flirting with the red-green deck. He had the Urbrask's Anointer just kind of up there near the front, but I think he knows that that isn't the direction that this draft is going to go. As you
5
mentioned,
seconds.
pack 3, his prospects for getting red cards, not good.
Lots of
Draft.
powerful
Pass
options in
11
that pack,
cards.
but as you can see, Luis really mindful of kind of
Pick up the pack. You have
his
25
curve,
seconds.
right?
Definitely.
No 2-drops, really wants to add to the board, going with that Rustbine Cultivator and trying to open up his options here. Now you're just seeing a bunch of oil-based cards,
Yes.
right? I mean,
This is tough because he is, I wouldn't say panic mode, but he is extremely concerned about his
5
curve at this
seconds.
point, as you mentioned, Paul. And as you can see, he's taking 2-drops, 1-drops whenever he can get his hands
Draft.
on them.
right,
Pass
but the
10
thing is,
cards.
one thing about this format is you kind of need to pick a lane and try to have a streamlined deck.
Yeah.
Am I an
Pick up the
oil
deck, you have
deck?
25
Am I a
seconds.
toxic deck? When you're flip-flopping back and forth, it's just so unreliable to ever take any of the payoff corrupted cards, right? You
It's
just can't put
difficult.
those into your deck anymore.
Yeah, he picks up another 2-drop here with Branch Blight Stalker, and I don't think the Tyrannex Atrocity or the Unnatural Restoration are really going to give it a run for its money.
5 seconds.
Yeah,
This is also back kind of on the white-green toxic
Draft.
theme
Pass
again,
9
so
cards.
actually a pretty good pickup for
Yeah,
him.
just-
I mean, you'd play any 3-1.
At this point, I think Luis would
two.
just be happy to play any
Pick up the
2-drop.
pack. You have
So
20 seconds.
Okay, let's see what he can get out of here. He really hasn't hit any of those like, oh, he got there. You know, somebody like green is open enough that he's got playables, but it hasn't really been flowing. Yeah, this is
5
tough.
seconds.
And I also want to just note that from what just the quality of the cards that I'm seeing this pack, and from what I normally see when I've just been drafting online or whatever, it's just
Pick up the pack.
you are
20
drafting
seconds.
against the best players in the world.
You're
You
at a
can see
PvP
the
park.
packs are drying up so fast.
So fast. He takes Adaptive Spore Singer there, not even a card he really wants at all. Prosthetic Injector, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he does seem to
5
be,
seconds.
you know, on a vaguely toxic theme, and that card does things in the toxic
Yeah,
pack.
yeah, and
Past
he does
7
have
cards.
some number of cards that don't have toxic that
Pick
he
up the
wants
pack,
to turn
you have
on
15
too.
seconds.
Yes, yeah, get those Vorax going. And he
Right.
did wield the Paladin
Paladin
of
time?
Predation, but I just, you know, that card is powerful and it can
5
be a
seconds.
finisher, but 7 mana is asking
It's
a
a
lot.
lot.
And let's also remember that when it comes to removal, Luis
Draft. Past
has
6 cards.
Planar Disruption. Like,
Pick up the pack,
that's
you have
it.
10
No fights,
seconds.
no bites, nothing else. And that usually means that you're not going to be around to to get to 7 mana, so you kind of have to be assertive yourself. And like
Draft.
honestly, a card
Past
like
5
Titanic
cards.
Growth that he picked up here is a much better card for his.
Yeah, this was a really rough pack too. And the
Pick up
thing
the
is,
cards,
Luis
you have
hasn't
10
even
seconds.
really locked himself into a second color
He
scheme.
hasn't
Right?
really. He could theoretically open something great in the 3rd pack and just be like, all right,
Yeah, I mean, if he opens a Luca, I'm sure he's just
Draft.
going to slam it, right?
yeah.
Past 4 cards. Pick up the pack. You have 5 seconds.
What if he opens like a Jace? Right? Like, you know, something
Draft.
that can win the
Past
game on
3
its
cards.
own, but that really doesn't go with anything
Right.
else.
Pick up the pack,
He
you
picks
have
up a
5
Basilica
seconds.
Skull Bomb here. You know, and at this point, that might make the cut. Not really the type
Draft.
of card you
Past
want in
2
a deck
cards.
like this.
Yeah, I'm
Pick up
really
the pack.
curious just how many
You have 5 seconds.
playables Luis has. He's had to take several cards that just aren't good fits into his deck. So
Yeah.
again, this
Draft.
pack 2 was not
And
very good.
past
for
It
him.
one card,
wasn't,
draft
but
the
you know,
final
I
card.
think a
Your
lot of
vote
the
has
cards were
a
on color. Like he
90-second
did take a
review
lot of
period
green
begins
cards, so
now.
he probably filled out cards you can put in your deck, but
Yeah.
that's about as good as you're going to get.
Got the Vorak.
Westmine
got some
Cultivators,
two-drops.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, you touched on it at the end of the pack. These are very, very, very tough tables. If you go onto like Arena and draft, you know, you might come away with a pretty good deck, right? If you sit down at a PT table with multiple PT champions sitting there, you know, everybody's experienced, everybody's been prepping. It is very rare that you just come away with some awesome deck. Like you got to fight it out. People do not give you stuff for free.
Yeah, and he's got a couple of nice tricks here that can really blow his opponents out potentially, right? Those Tyvar stands are still going to be incredibly powerful, especially if you can lower your curve and put some pressure on your opponent.
Absolutely.
Not as good in a slower deck that's trying to play cards like this Paladin, but if you're curving out, playing 2-drops, 3-drops, and beating your opponent down, I mean, that combat trick has done so much work.
Yeah, and it's really great. I mean, you can play it for 1 mana. Like you can just get the protection effects from it. Like
You know what I always forget that card does?
which one of the many things?
The Tyvar stand. It's the indestructible.
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh, this is a pretty good combat trick.
Right.
Even if it just gives hexproof,
Right.
it pumps the thing for X.
Exactly.
But then it's like,
10
oh wait, it
seconds.
also gives indestructible. which
Yeah.
goes- it's great at 1, and it's great as just the potential fireball finisher at the end, right?
Yeah.
You just pay X and just hit your opponent for 10.
It should just say, look, this thing ain't
That is
dying.
time.
Like,
Please
take
you know, I don't
to the
care. You
single
got a
face
wrath.
final.
I don't care if you target it.
This one,
Like,
you're
this
gonna be
thing is
drafting to
not
left.
dying.
Please remove the
Okay, this
wrapper
is a
sheet around
huge
that
pack
last
here
pack
for
of
Luis.
cards.
Pack 3. This
Lay
is going to
down
make or
15
break
cards,
his
make sure
draft.
none
He
of them are
has
marked.
a reasonable foundation, but he needs to fully solidify his colors and strategy, and he really needs to up his power level. He just doesn't have anything impressive. He has
Yeah.
like one piece of
Pick up the
removal
pack. You have
and no
40
bombs,
seconds.
no nothing like that. Let's see what he gets here. That's a Necrogen Rot
Ooh,
Priest.
Annex
Annex
Sentry, one of the
Sentry.
best
That will
uncommons
help.
in the set.
That was a Scourge there with the alternate
Yeah,
art.
I mean,
but
you're
he's
just
gonna
slamming
slam
the Sentry
Sentry
here.
So this was one of the best possible pickups for him.
Absolutely.
This shores up 2 weaknesses of his, arguably 3. It gives him another toxic creature. It gives him a removal spell, and it's in the
incredible.
first 3
This
turns
card
of
is-
the game. It's just nuts. Okay, so that
right,
was a
green-white.
big step in the right direction, and now there is no looking back.
Yeah.
He is green-white. There is a
5
Basilica
seconds.
Shepherd in this pack as well, we should mention. So, you know, we did see a couple of late ones in the draft. He
Please
could
pass
potentially
14
wield
cards to
that.
your left.
Yeah, and you have to think the green's going to be flowing here, given all the late Tyvar stands you saw in
Yes.
pack 1.
Pick up the pack.
He's a bit
You
of
have
at the
40
mercy of what
seconds.
gets opened, but he's put himself in a decent position.
Okay,
There's a
that's
Vorak.
a Vorak. Oh,
Oh, is that a Spinoderm?
that is
Nice.
a Spinoderm.
So he did pick up a nice green rare.
Oh,
And
okay.
Luis, with just one fanning of the cards, is even, like, there was no choice there for
Yeah.
him, right? He's just, like, slamming it. And that was exactly what he needed to see. So first two picks of the third pack have been bliss here for Luis. He says, well, my birthday present got a little late, but it's
4
here.
mana,
It's
5/5, and a removal spell on a toxic creature for 3 mana. Pretty
5
decent
seconds.
start here for Luis in
Yeah,
pack
a
3.
little delay in the shipping there, but his
Yeah.
present has arrived.
Draft. Pass 13 cards.
Okay, let's see if he can continue this amazing
the pack.
third
You have
pack. The
35
first two
seconds.
picks fantastic and already off to a good start. Let's see. Oil Gorger Troll.
Not exactly what you want here, but it
Yeah.
might just be the only option. Luis doesn't have a ton of oil counters on his creatures. He did take a couple of those Rustvine Cultivators. Does have a Predation Steward, but no real playables out of that pack. So
Interesting that he took the Troll. You know, he's going to have to try to work those in, right? He's going to have to look at these
5
green
seconds.
cards and see, is there any other ways that I can get a few oil counters going
Draft.
just
Pass
incidentally,
12
like
cards.
besides the cultivators?
Pick up,
He'd love to see a removal spell, by the way. Like, can we get
Pick
him
up the pack, you
3
have 30
removal?
seconds.
a
Like,
Ruthless Predation maybe.
Sure.
All right, that's a nice 2-drop.
Cankerbloom's very strong. And there's also my little friend at the back there, the Crawling Chorus. But Cankerbloom has proven to be very strong in this format. There are almost always targets for its activated ability, and in your worst case, you got a 3/2.
Yeah, and if your opponent just comes up with a slow start, it's punishing.
Right.
Also trades with the good 3/3s in the
Yes.
format as
5
well.
seconds.
Crawling Course is also a phenomenal card, especially if you are the toxic deck.
Draft.
However, I think
Pass 11
with
cards.
the way Luis wants to structure his mana base, there are going to be instances where you might not even be able to play a turn
Pick up
one.
the
Yeah,
pack, you
and
have
I just
25
don't know that
seconds.
he can. Wow, another Vorak. I
All
just
the
don't know that
Voraks.
he can be all in on Toxic, and
Right.
if you're not, then that card goes down in value quite a bit. Contagious Vorak, though, is stacking up for him. You know,
You don't need synergy when you just put a bunch of Voraks in your deck.
It's right.
It's
I mean,
just so good.
The Vorak kind of sums up green in the format. It's just like
5
value and a
seconds.
bunch of power and toughness,
Right.
right? It's nothing fancy. It should have haste like all the
Draft.
other green and
Pass
red
10
cards,
cards.
but you know, you can't have it all. Let's see if
Pick up the pack. You have
this
25
next pack
seconds.
continues the trend here for Luis.
Probably going to find a green card at least, right?
Yeah, he did find another cultivator there. I don't know if the third
Do you play
one,
3 though?
I mean,
That
he
is a
does
lot.
have multiple oil gorger trolls, and maybe that could
Oh,
help
that
him.
puts oil counters onto things.
A monumental facade
Monument.
there.
Could take the
5
thicket if your
seconds.
mana is bad. I don't know if I'd be happy playing a third cultivator.
I think I would in
Pass
this
9
deck.
cards.
Yeah.
I think he either has 2 or 3
Pick
trolls,
up the pack. You have 20 seconds.
and like
yeah,
they
I
turn
mean,
that
I
on-
guess that's the combo.
yeah. And a little bit of a whiskey here, and doesn't look like much for him. Miran Bardiche is the only option, but that's a mediocre playable, and I think
5
that his 5-drop slot's already pretty good, so that probably won't end up making the cut. He has
Draft.
no
Pass 8
synergies
cards.
with it.
Pick up
Might
the
have
pack.
actually
You
been
have
worth it
20
for him to
seconds.
take the Carnivorous Canopy there and just
For more interaction.
Well,
Oh,
and we are
there's a Slaughter
sideboarding
Singer.
here. Oh, okay. Hello.
Okay, that's a happy addition into the deck.
definitely
Perfect.
solid little 2-ball here for Luis, and this is one of the last picks before his wheel pack,
5
so that
seconds.
was a nice pickup. And it does show that, you know, he's in a good color pair. He read his seat well
Draft.
and set
Pass
himself up.
7 cards.
And he did get fortunate here that this last pack gave him a significant power boost as
Pick
well.
up the pack. You have 15
The
seconds.
thing he's missing is removal. Like he just does not have that, so he is going to need to be assertive and lean on those combat tricks to kind of act as removal. He did get a canopy this
5
time though,
seconds.
so he's got one for his board now. Also worth noting, I mean, look, if you're used to playing best of 1 on Arena,
Draft.
you know, we're playing
Pass
best 2
6
out of 3
cards.
matches here, how we always
Pick up
do
the
in
pack, you have
paper,
10
and these
seconds.
sideboard cards matter. Like those come in, people win games off
Absolutely.
of those all
Canopy
the
is a
time.
fantastic card to pick up multiple copies of, especially if you're playing against the blue-white artifact. deck.
Draft.
Right.
Pass 5
Sky
cards.
Side
Basically, the
Engulfer.
entire deck
Yeah.
is a target.
Pick up the pack. You
Exactly.
have 10
Sky
seconds.
Scythe and Engulfer not really the name of the game here, so he'll take it, but it doesn't do much.
I always
Lack of
want this card to be
completion.
good.
No, it's
I
just
keep reading it, and then I read it again, and I'm like, nope, there's just
Draft.
nothing I would
Pass 4
like out of this
cards.
card.
Every time I read it,
Pick up
I
the
think
pack,
this
you
is
have
so
5
cool,
seconds.
and all it really says is you die a little faster. You know, it's just like It just
Draft.
helps out your
Pass
opponent.
3 cards.
All right, so just
up
a
the
few
pack, you
cards
have
left
5
in the pack
seconds.
here for Luis Scott-Vargas as he wraps up his birthday draft here on day
Draft.
one
Pass
from
2
Pro
cards. Pick up
Tour
the pack, you have 5
Phyrexia.
seconds.
How do you think things panned out for Luis there? That third pack was a godsend, no doubt
Draft.
about it.
Yeah, it
And then
definitely
draft your
saved
final
him.
card.
It's still
Please
a
put all
little
your
bit
picks into a
awkward
single
because he,
face-down pile
in
and
an
wait for
ideal
instructions
green-white
from my
deck,
team.
you don't want to be playing the 2 Oil Gorger Trolls with the 3 Rustvine Cultivators. It looks like there's a good chance those are going to make it into his deck, and you just want more 2-drops that have Toxic and get in there. But he got some gifts, right? He got the late pick Slaughter Singer. You got likely the best uncommon in the set in the NX entry, along with that gifted green rare in the last pack. So I think it saved him. It's still not the ideal deck, right? So he's still missing a few things, but I think he still has the tools. He does have those. He has a bunch of great combat tricks in his deck to kind of pull away. If I were to predict, 2-1.
Okay, yeah, a solid 2-1. I mean, those Tyvar stands can outright steal games,
Right.
right? And especially if you've got a little bit of mana ramp going, right? I'm also
Yeah, I'm
curious-
not sold, but
And look, we actually get to see here exactly what Luis is running. It looks like he's on 10 forests plus the Hunter Maze and then the 6 plains over there, and he is running all 3 Rustvines, and he is running the Paladin of Predation up top as well as the Bardiche, so that did actually end up making the deck for him. And then of course the 2 Trolls up top, and then in the middle, you know, he is quite poisonous there, right? He can actually get some of those going. He's playing the Prosthetic Injector as well, Paul, so that will add to his ability to get the poison counters flowing if that ends up becoming his game plan.
yeah, I mean, you got a curve, you got combat tricks. Would like a little more removal. You have 2 ways to interact, but I mean, if you're just on the play, and you can definitely get those punishing draws here. And I did forget that the Evolved Spinoderm also has oil counter, so now we're looking at 5 cards, right, to turn on that troll.
Sure. Okay, so there you go. There's Luis Scott-Vargas's draft here for our opening draft. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to have round number 1. Don't go anywhere.